Welcome back to Approved AF, the Mortgage Licensing Podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Cathi Davidson, the Director of Regulatory Compliance and Quality Control at Licensing Store. Cathi has reviewed hundreds of QC files across brokers, lenders, and non-delegated correspondents. And she has seen exactly what makes companies exam ready and what puts them at risk. If you've ever wondered why your data isn't matching across your systems, how examiners really think, or what small mistakes lead to big headaches, this episode is a roadmap to compliance clarity. So let's dive in. Hey, Cathi, welcome back to Approved AF. How have you been?
Great. How have you been?
Been doing really good. Can you give our listeners a quick overview of what you do at Licensing Store for those who are just tuning in and haven't heard you on before?
Sure. So I handle a lot of the compliance aspects and the quality control, so QC of loan files, which compliance can involve many different things. A lot of the stuff we do, I help with state examinations. So I'm working with examiners and our clients a lot. We do assistance with data integrity within the client's system, helping them understand how to properly status their loans to be compliant. And then also doing quality control reviews for them and identifying any issues that need attention or correction and helping them along the way with that.
That's awesome. So you really do get to see like behind the curtain for a lot of these mortgage companies that are coming to us for assistance. When you think about data quality, why does that matter so much?
So it is the information that is distributed in every aspect of the company. It is used for running your AUS, getting a loan closed, reporting on your mortgage call reports, reporting on your state reports, reporting on your examinations, your quality control reviews. All that information is pulled from the client's loan operating system. And so if that information isn't correct, it's going to cause issues in other places. So that your loan operating system should be like your main source of data retention, and then verify it's accurate.
So bad data in, bad results out.
Yes.
What are some of the biggest ways inaccurate or incomplete data then shows up in QC reviews that you've done?
So we will ask for a closed loan log. We make a selection from that log, and then we ask for those loan files. And as we're going through the loan files, based on the data that we asked for, it might be different. For example, you sent me the loan log, and this particular loan that we selected had a loan amount of $400,000. But the closed package that we received, that loan amount was $375,000. There's a problem. And now you've reported from your system that you closed a loan at $400,000 to mortgage call report, potentially state reports, examinations for their loan logs that they request, but that's not accurate. I've seen interest rates incorrect. I have seen terms, like it was a 20-year, but the data showed it was a 30-year.
Mm-hmm.
So that the they always say the devil, is in the details. The data integrity is like, I can't stress enough how important it is to have it correct in your loan operating system.
And how does that messy data cause extra work for things like exam findings or put a company at a higher compliance risk?
So, I mean, if you just kind of walk through the process with a state examination, the examiner, they're going to ask for loan logs. And every state's different with regard to the data that they ask for. Some states want a lot of data, down to, what was the APR? How many discount points did you charge? What was your total finance charges? Um, to other states where they're just give me the loan amount, closing date, so forth. So they're all different, but we need to give them good information. So we're providing them with the data that they've requested. They make their loan selection. Now, as the state examiner is going through, they're verifying the information that you provided them on the loan logs to the loan that they selected, the loan documentation. And if there's a lot of inconsistency, that, an examiner is going to look and say, what kind of controls do you have over your process and procedures to ensure that this data is going to be accurate, because the states require accurate data. That's why we have mortgage call reports, right? They want to know how much are you closing, how many, with regards to volume, with regards to units. They want to know, now brokers have to report even more than they had to report before. So there's more data that needs to be accurate, and they need to capture within their system than they did, back in 2024, 2023. So yes, the states will, they will review that, and then they will come back. And, the first time that they examine, they're going to point it out. And, I can't speak on fines or, what the state's going to do, but that's the time that that client has to say, okay, what are we going to do? They respond to the state. This is, what we're going to implement. And then the biggest thing is they have to do it, because that state's going to come back around and they're going to retest, and they want to make sure that you did what you said you did.
So having a good solid foundation is essential, and you don't want to have the mindset of, "Oh, I'll deal with that later on down the road," because then that becomes a scrambling to fix it kind of situation. And now you've got state eyes on you rather than having something in place that you can implement and maintain as a company.
Correct. And that's kind of where like the quality control comes into play,
Hmm.
because as we're reviewing the QC loans, if we know that, the state's examination, this is what they cited for, then we can start looking for that. And we can then give feedback to the client that what they implemented is working, or maybe it's not working. And so they need to do something else.
And you've handled hundreds of QC reviews. What is something that you see across different companies that they're repeating that could easily be avoided?
Incorrect data. I see a lot of loan logs that they have, when an examiner asks for a list of closed loans, I have a loan log where the loan amounts might be zero, or there might not be a closing date, or, there's just the data integrity isn't there. So now that client needs to go back before we issue this report and say, okay, we need to have the accurate information to provide the state. So let's pull the closed loan report. Let's make sure that your system is accurate. And that's time consuming for them.
Do you think that companies just don't know that the data doesn't match, or do you think it's a thing of they're just rushing through the process and not taking the moment to put it in correctly the first time?
Well, I can't speak for everybody. I can, if I were to pick one thing, I would say that it is, brokers rely on the lenders to send out their documentation. And so what I see a lot is that the brokers enter all the accurate information within the lender site, but forget to then
transpose that into theirs.
their system to where their system mirrors exactly what that lender has.
And for brokers, it's technically your responsibility, your LOS system. It needs to be the one that is correct.
Yes. Yeah. The state's going to come to the broker for the information. They're not going to go to the lender for it. Yeah.
How can companies set themselves up for smoother QC reviews and better reporting year round?
I think it's just making sure that your data integrity is one of the top things that you focus on always. It's not a one and done. You have to test it, which is why you have QC. It helps, say, hey, we found some discrepancies here, so we need to address this. And then you're documenting, the client's documenting, like, okay, I implemented this. We're going to continue to test in my QC reports and make sure that that's working. And so now you have kind of like a change management system that you've created to where you can provide an examiner. Yes, we said that this was what we were going to do. We identified that, we implemented it. We identified that it wasn't working in the QC results. We immediately made this change. And so now you have that log and you're showing good faith that you're trying to maintain good data integrity. So yeah, I would say testing throughout your system and utilizing QC for it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's certain data points that tend to trip companies up?
I would say companies sometimes don't utilize their loan operating system for everything that they could.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of the programs out there, you can balance your loan within your system. You can make sure that for, our non-DELs, you can make sure that the wire that is being sent out, your system reflects that that's the amount that should be wired. So you kind of have that balancing cross, check. And then you can even utilize it to reflect, what the loan officer was paid on it. Because again, the state examiners are going to ask for that. It's part of some of the information, for the total revenue on the loans that is reported on the mortgage call report. So the more you can utilize your loan operating system to its fullest, I feel the better the company will be for data integrity.
I like that. And so if someone is just kind of thinking, where can they start to tighten up their processes, what would your suggestion be for them?
So if they're not currently doing QC, I would tell them to, pull a report, do a mock audit on yourself. So pull a closed loan report and look at the data that is, presenting itself. Is there anything that doesn't make sense? If you're pulling, let's say I pull an adverse loan report and I'm looking on that data and I have a lot of loans listed that don't have a loan amount. You kind of have to question why.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there? Or I pull a report for, closed loans and I have no APR listed on some of these loans. Well, you need an APR. So why is that data not populating? Kind of almost self-police yourself.
Yeah.
With that. And then if you are using QC, have open communication with them saying, can you, we were cited for this on an examination. Can you add this to the list of items that you're currently reviewing to make sure that, this issue has been corrected? So having that good relationship with your QC company, I feel is really important.
That's a really good point, is not just overlooking items that maybe might have pertained to one state and not transferring that over to implement it overall for your entire company. Um, what would you suggest being a, quick win for a team that is looking to make their next QC exam a little bit easier?
QC exam or state exam?
Either.
Either. So a quick win is I would say take your closed loans.
Yeah.
And verify the information in that package matches what your system says. Because that'll tell you right there what you're missing or what's not being captured. And then have communication with your operations staff and with regards to who's responsible for that data. And if you don't have process and procedures built around that, then you can start having those conversations of where does that responsibility lie for what you're finding.
That actually kind of takes me into my next question. Have you seen a process or a tool that somebody has implemented that has made them more efficient in that process, that their information stays consistent across the board?
Yeah, utilizing your system with regard to, I would call it business rules. So you can tell the system this must be entered at the time the loan originator sends out the application package. And then once it's submitted to processing, well, now the processors have requirements that they have to fulfill within your loan origination system. So that way you're capturing the things that you want to make sure is captured. And so basically you just need to create a roadmap. This is what the loan officer is responsible for. This is what the processors, and it doesn't have to be, you can write it on a piece of paper and then take that and build out business rules. And if you don't know how to build out business rules within your loan operating system, reach out to your AE and they can assist with that because they all have them.
And so you can build that right into your loan operating system, so it's almost like an internal check and balance, hitting some of those requirements that you need.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a check and balance. I would call it you're capturing the data. And it's not getting overlooked. It's not getting missed. So you're not gonna, 3 months down the road, identify that we have a major issue because all this information wasn't captured.
And what difference do you see between companies that are always reacting to those issues versus those that stay exam ready year round?
Oh, their time. Their the time that it takes. Yeah. It's when they're not ready, it is basically, time is money. And it takes time to then go through all of that data to make sure it's accurate, as opposed to just taking a set amount of time to build something out to making sure you are capturing it. Yes, it might take a little bit longer up front, but in the long run, it's going to be less time for you.
Kind of like meal prepping.
Yep. Less mistakes. Your data is accurate. And then that is a very comforting feeling.
Yes. Yeah. And that was a good point. It's going to create this confidence for these businesses because they're going to feel exam ready, and not just with regulators, but also within the leadership team. How do you see that when someone is utilizing you for QC, that confidence grow?
Oh, it's tremendous. They love getting the wins because, when you start out, and again, everybody has to start somewhere. You might have a lot of findings, and then, they might be minor if you just look at it individually. But if you have a lot of minor issues, well, then, things need to be addressed. And then as you go through each month, and I shouldn't say each month because it takes time to filter through when you make updates, but they'll start seeing the rewards of what they put into it, because now that finding isn't showing up anymore. So now you may only have a few findings, which is a great feeling because you're doing something right. It's working.
Yes. So what would you suggest? What would be your gentle nudge to companies listening that have just kind of been running off of spreadsheets and sticky notes to take themselves to the next level?
I would say if you're uncertain of how to move forward, then reach out to us, have a conversation, and we can identify if there are things that we can help you with up front, or guide you along the way. There's so many different projects that we have created for a lot of our clients, and no one client is the same. So we have some clients that want us to be more hands-on, and we have some clients that, tell me what to do. I'll implement it. I'll come back to you and then just make sure, to test it. And we do that. So it really is specific to what the client is looking for, but it really just starts with that initial consultation call. Like, what are your needs? What are your concerns? And let's talk about that. Let's talk through each one of them and really drill down as to where your starting point should be, because where you think your starting point should be, it may not be there, because everybody wants to take things and fix everything at one time, and that is most of the time unrealistic. It's better to start, okay, this is where the higher risk issues are. Let's tackle those and then keep working on it. We'll eventually get all, completely done, but it's easier to focus on like smaller sections than it is to try to tackle everything at one time.
So find something that's the priority, make the change, and then keep making and implementing smaller changes to make it sustainable.
You got it.
What would you say is an underrated compliance or QC practice that you wish more mortgage companies were implementing?
That's a good question. Underrated. I would say, and you're going to laugh because I've said it a lot throughout our conversation, is on closed loans, it's the final data integrity. Your loan operating system should 100% mirror how that loan closed. And don't forget, things happen sometimes after the loan closes. So for brokers, was there something that happened after closing that caused a change of circumstance? And, now we have a cost to cure. I shouldn't say change of circumstance, but we have a cost to cure. So that tells me you don't have the most up-to-date closing disclosure because it was redisclosed with the cost to cure. You need that. And then you need to update your system. So trailing docs isn't talked about a lot. Going back and just verifying closed loan data with the lenders, or if you're sending them to a broker, making sure that you're following up a month late. Did anything change? Have a conversation with your AE. How do you notify the companies if there's a change after the fact, so I can make sure that my information in my loan operating system is accurate and I have the documents? Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for providing all the documents to an examiner, not the lender. So the examiner is going to want that from you. So you have to make sure you maintain that.
Yeah, we really don't talk about trailing docs.
Mm-mm.
That's a good point. And is there anything that companies are currently doing that you have seen that you're like, I wish they would just stop doing this. It's really causing them more issues than it is causing them to be successful?
Yes, keeping working within a loan operating system for some things, and then working within the lender's system for some things. It's you have data in two different places, and they're not. It's kind of chaotic.
Yeah,
Like how do you manage that?
that's a great
Yeah.
question. And is there a loan operating system that you prefer when you're, because you've obviously worked with a bunch of companies in their various loan operating systems. Is there one that you're finding is a little bit more, to your liking?
I mean, there are. I don't want to come out and you know
Make it the
specify.
gold standard.
Right. Exactly. I would just say that, they're all good. They all have pros, but make sure that you're utilizing it to its full potential.
No, that's a
That's
good point
key.
because you could have the best loan operating system on the planet, but if you're not utilizing it to its full potential, it's
Right.
really not doing you the
Any good. I
justice.
mean,
Yeah.
you're spending the money for it. So let's really utilize that and let's capture what it does. So that way it actually saves you money in the long run. Yeah.
After doing so many QC reviews, do you have a favorite success story that you'd like to share?
Oh, I have a ton. I just find it rewarding when you see a client that takes the QC seriously and makes the changes that um, you find, within their QC report, and watch them kind of grow within um, the process because now they want to make sure their data is more accurate. They're proud to have good data, right? So they want to make sure that they're giving good data. Or if there's something that was incorrect, they want to make sure that they correct it. And then now, they're happy that it's working. So watching them just kind of grow within understanding, number one, the process that, QC is there to help you. They're not your enemy. It's kind of like a team. Um, and then embracing the compliance, having, a better knowledge of a lot of the compliance things that people don't think about sometimes. I mean, uh, things as little as making sure that on your final closing disclosure that the state license for the company is listed. It's the little things. It's the little details that, it's so minute. Let's
Yeah.
get it right because it's easy. It's an easy fix. It's an easy win, right?
Yeah.
And
We're
let's
always
get
looking
let's
for
get it
those quick wins.
right. I would rather have a client. Let's find it on our QC. I'd rather find it, identify it, and because the state examiners, they might ask for the QC reports, but that's a good thing because you're self-policing yourself,
Yes.
and they see that you're making those corrections. So I'd rather the company find it through their QC reports than an examiner find it and telling the company you need to fix this. Let's get out in front of it. Let's fix it or find it before the state examiners do. And in all fairness, that's what the state examiners would like to see.
Yeah.
They're not, the state examiners are there to help. They want to identify issues. They're not there to, harm you, but they have rules that they have to follow. So if they find something, they're going to let you know.
Absolutely. And again, it is probably, as much as that's a scary thing to think about getting audited or examined, it is only to your benefit to make sure that things are getting done correctly. If you want to be in business the long term, doing things correctly and having good systems in place are only going to be to your benefit.
100%.
If you are talking to a mortgage company and they are just feeling overwhelmed, they don't know where to start, they just feel like their data's an absolute train wreck, or, where do I begin? Um, what would your suggestion to them be if you were on a consultation call with them?
Uh, Well, first I would want to ask, let's identify let's really drill into where your concerns are. And then let's pull some reports out of your system and let's go through them and identify, does the data make sense? Is your application date versus when you send out the disclosures versus when your initial, approval was issued. I mean, those are all compliance timelines, right? And then you have, we can, test very easily for, let's just run, a few loan tests. Give me the loan data and we can compare it to the logs that you provided. There's so many different ways that we can approach that. It really just starts with the conversation. It's hard to answer that because every call starts here but ends way over here.
Because you're truly trying to identify what that company's goals are, not always telling them what they should be.
Oh no! So we're not going to tell you. We're going to explain to you. Here's the rule, or here's the guideline. This is our recommendation, or we could give several different recommendations to still get to the same goal, but it's up to that company to determine what's best for them. And then from there, we can help, implement that, or maybe you need process and procedures to be put together. Well, once the company determines what they want that process and procedure to look like, if they need assistance with then compiling that, then we can step in and help with that. But it's ultimately up to the company on what level of risk they're willing to take, and how they want to handle the internal operational aspect of it.
And then finally, what would you want every mortgage company to remember about compliance and data?
I would tell every mortgage company that your data is gold to you. I mean, it's why Google and all these other companies, they want data. So if you have good data, not only is it good for your compliance and your reporting, it is going to be good for managing potential future growth, right? How do you scale growth unless you have good data to then support what you have and where you want to go? Or your client database. What is the most important thing to a mortgage company but their client database? So wouldn't you want to have good data within your system to talk to a past client and say, oh, your interest rate is 7%, blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't. We closed at 6.5. Well, sorry about that. Bad data, right? So, it's just, if our, mortgage companies looked at their internal data like that's your gold right there. I think that they would, look at it differently. As opposed to looking at it as this is a daunting task. Why do I have to do this? As opposed to, I want good data because there's so much I can do with it.
Yes.
And there's so much that, rides on having good data that, it benefits me in the long run and the growth of the company to make sure that we start getting good data now.
So for anybody listening who wants to get started and have that initial conversation with you to figure out where to go with their QC and their compliance, how can they get in touch?
So you can reach out to the licensing store directly. You can reach out to me. It's Cathi at thelicensingsstore.com. And just start that initial conversation.
Thank you so much, Cathi, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another conversation designed to help you grow without the chaos. If this episode brought clarity, gave you a next step, or reminded you to tighten up those data practices, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone in the mortgage industry who needs it. And don't forget to follow along with us on Instagram at approvedaf_licensing for more conversations, compliance tips, and behind-the-scenes insights. Until next time, stay licensed, stay compliant, and stay approved AF.